Oh, I
I am.
need. Yay, we are live. Here we are. Netty and Kay here. Kay Hamilton and Jeanette. How are you, darling?
I'm fantastic. I'm sitting on a hot water bottle at the moment, though, because my back is very tender today. So I'm just sitting here gently with the lovely hot water bottle, just sitting right where it needs to. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. And Tiffany's joined us. Yeah, Tiff, we had a bit of trouble. We had a bit of trouble connecting to Nettie had issues with her camera, so we are streaming a little bit later than planned, but we are still streaming. So actually we had trouble with Tiffany that I was just on with when she first joined. We had some issues as well, but
Yeah,
we
I
solved
watched
that.
you girls.
Yes, a bit quicker. Yeah, isn't she great? Our Tiffany.
I know. I even asked for a reading, and you just ignored me.
I didn't even see that. And
I know.
Tiffy
I
came.
was invisible.
Oh my gosh. Well, you didn't keep asking, did you?
No,
I can
I don't do
I
that.
can pull you. I'll pull you an oil. I'll pull you a couple of cards. Let's start with you. Let's do that.
Let's do it.
Let's
Do you want
see.
me to? Okay, yep. Let's do that.
I'm going to pull an enchanted vision. I'm here. I am poking myself right out the front. These are cards that I got off you, Nettie. I love these enchanted vision cards.
Oh, the enchanted map.
Yes, I love it.
Yep.
Oh, sorry,
Oh,
Nettie.
you're
So
right, Tippy. I'm only teasing. Honestly, I just came on to watch, and I love watching you girls in action. And yeah, it's so lovely. And you, Tiff, you are doing fantastic, woman.
yeah, I'm looking forward to the day that I ring up and say, or I message Tiff and I say, I can't do it tonight, Tiff. Would you like to take the reins? Magical map shifter. What is
Ooh,
going on for you, Nettie? So you are
really?
tossing. You've got all these things you're tossing up, and you are shifting. You've got it. To me, it's a bit like the magician, the energy of the magician. You know, that so many things, so many skills, so many talents, and you can actually just do it with your eyes closed.
Yes, and I love that card in the fact that it's for me. For me, it also represents that like I fully trust. I trust
Mm.
what I'm guided to do, and I just go with that. I don't question it, so I don't need to see a plan. I don't need to see a path, and that's exactly what's happening for me right now. And so that card is absolutely 100% smack on.
Smack on, and I'll pull
Smack
an oil
on.
card for you as well. This is all about Nettie right now. And Tiffany, can you see the comments? Have you got two devices up or
I
yeah?
can see the comments, but I can't reply unless verbally.
Oh, okay. Because I didn't think you could see the comments. Okay. So patchouli, peaceful, fragmented. Which of those? Peace flows through me. So that patchouli is an oil for really it's an oil for royalty and to remind you how the beauty that's within you and the peace to bring that peace. I get that peace in the beauty of who you are.
I love that. And I love patchouli. So nice.
Yeah. Now your camera's moving. You're going all blurry. Something's happened. Are
Oh,
you
am I?
blurry for you?
No, I'm not. I don't know what's happening. I
In-
really don't. But I do know there's a lot of issues with technology at the moment. So,
Hmm. Okay. So tonight we want to talk about trauma challenges and what we can do about it and what would happen if we made the wrong decisions with with our way out of trauma. And I know that I could probably sit here and say that I've been in traumatic situations and not necessarily made the right decisions looking back. And what decisions have I made that I could give myself more guilt or more, I could kind of give myself a beating over. I don't think giving ourselves a beating over things like that is very effective.
Oh,
Have you?
absolutely. Absolutely. And I think when you work from a trauma brain, that is the automated response. Because when you work from a trauma brain, you kind of work from the space that it's always your fault. I should have done better. I should have worked harder. I should have been a better person. I shouldn't have made that decision. And when you are coming from a place of trauma, it's very hard to make decisions that aren't impactful. Like you said, you think you're making a right choice, and then you look back and think, what on earth was I thinking? But I think when you're in trauma, you're not thinking. Your adrenaline is running. You are working from a place of fear. You are working from a place of fight, flight, or freeze.
Just
And
about to, yes.
your brain, all your brain wants to do is run, is to move. So you don't actually have the ability to make big choices other than I'm in danger. I need to get out of here. And trauma is a danger to the brain. It doesn't have to be a trauma where you're actually in a life-threatening situation, but your brain will tell you that you are, because that's how it's wired. And so I don't think you can make a wrong decision, but you're probably not making great decisions at the same time. So
It's fascinating, isn't it? Because you might be making a decision that's staying with the wrong decision, or like in the wrong situation. If you're in a situation where all hell's broken loose and you're not you're not feeling empowered, and you're being downtrodden, or let's face it, it can be abuse. And
absolutely.
if you are being or abused, or you've experienced abuse, I'll never forget going to a psychologist, and she was talking about what you're talking about, a trauma brain. And what happens is that you actually, when you're in that situation of trauma, Tiff summed it up here, it's like pure survival mode when you make choices from trauma. And that flight and fight is switched on. So when you've been through trauma, you can go into that situation where actively your brain is always on high alert, ready, waiting for that next moment of grief, pain, hurt, whatever it is. And your brain is, because it's working in overload, it doesn't go into that state of rest and recuperate. It's just in that fight for survival and fight to move forward. And consequently, it can make it really tricky to make the right decisions.
Absolutely. And when you're in trauma or in danger, your brain becomes a seeker. So your brain seeks an exit, an outlet, a safe route. It constantly is in seek mode. And then your brain and your heart, very smart, shuts down everything else in the body that doesn't need, like your limbs and that don't get shut down. The adrenaline gets those going, but your brain and your heart get the majority of what it needs so that you're able to escape. Now, anyone who knows me knows that I come from a massive trauma background, massive, from birth right the way through. So I've had a lot of trauma in my life, but it's something I encourage people never to do is compare your trauma to another person. Now, that's really, really important, because, somebody could, well, I remember my beautiful niece, my sister moved, and you'll know these places, Kay. My sister moved from Waratah to Somerset, so an hour away.
Yes.
My niece was so traumatized by that as a young girl, she actually had to go and have counselling. Now, other people poo-pooed that, said, oh, for God's sake, she's a kid, But that was traumatic for her, because she had had such a stable life.
Sorry.
things had gone on, like my brother-in-law he'd lost his job suddenly at the mine. There was big turmoil. They had to get out of the mining house. So it was very stressful for her. Whereas other people might look at that and go, wow, well, she wouldn't want to have what, my brother had. He lost both his legs we shouldn't compare, because what is one person's trauma might be another person's everyday, oh, yeah, no, that's nothing to me compared to what I've been through. So it's very important not to compare ourselves to others, but not to overshadow someone's trauma with your own either. Like Kay could say, I was in domestic violence, which I know you was, Kay, because you spoke about that. And me jump in, oh yes, but my ex did this and this. So it overshadows your trauma because I need mine to be bigger and better. Does that make sense?
Yes, and I love Tiffy's. Thanks for your comments.
Yes.
Tiffy's also talked about when you've experienced trauma, and it's like muscle memory. So your muscle, you get stuck in that groove, and really
you're constantly the sneaker.
Yep. And then she goes on to say trauma actually shrinks one part of the brain and inflames another part, making thought processes and decision making completely different. Need to exercise it essentially to get it back to healthy. So yes, that recovery can take time, and even though you might I was actually talking to someone today about that, how you can think you're recovered. Well, you are. You've recovered to a certain degree, or you've made progress. Let's put it that way with your recovery, and maybe those triggers that might actually, be part of what you're experiencing. When you do some healing, you can kind of sail along, and you're on your surfboard and you're riding those waves, and you've managed your surfboard. You've got a rudder on your surfboard. You've got your sail up. And then something can just drop into your life that out of the blue you can be re-triggered, because there might be another aspect that you haven't actually dealt with. I was talking about that with someone today, and I know this person's done a lot of healing on themselves, and sometimes it can take us by surprise that, oh, I thought I dealt with that, but oh, whammo, here's another layer to the onion, or another aspect of what's going on.
Absolutely. This internet's really playing up, isn't it? Look, as well, when you've had, I used to work in the neuro ward, so I know a lot about brain trauma, besides all my own traumas, and working in mental health, when I was nursing, but a lot of people have had a lot of trauma in their life, and I can vouch for this because I'm one of them. My brain could not take any more trauma. My brain literally could not take any more. So it started to compartmentalize things. So my brain, basically, if you want to put a picture on it, my brain divided itself into different rooms, and I was able to safely, I was very lucky because I'm able to safely open a door and decide if I want to deal with that problem. And I was able to do that, whereas not everyone's so lucky that it all comes in on top of them and it's too much and they have a breakdown. Whereas I was very, very blessed in the fact that my traumas were so big, I just locked them away until I was ready to deal with them. And as much as you think you're fine, you don't have to deal with them, you do, because if you don't deal with your traumas, they will come out in other ways, in illness, in injury, your body will break down, all sorts of things, so this is one part of our lives that we can't escape. And actually, the card I pulled tonight is very interesting because I know that you said that we were going to discuss stuff tonight, but I've been so busy I completely forgot. And as you know, when I got on with you, I said, what are we discussing again? And the card I pulled is the trauma of all the children in our world right now, with people
Mm.
wearing masks, children are
Mm.
very, very traumatized because they're not seeing what they need to see. Children learn by seeing, by looking, and you know, this gentleman was on TikTok the other night. He was sobbing, and he was sobbing because he said he didn't wear a mask to the supermarket, and a little girl came up and was fascinated and said, I really love your face. I don't get to see my mummy's face anymore, and I really love your face. And that broke him,
Wow.
absolutely broke him. So we are actually going to have generations of trauma with our
Mm-hmm.
children. And like, I'm not trying to bring anything negative in. I'm being
Yeah.
factual. Our
Well, that's what it
children are being traumatized, and so we're going to have a major problem with traumatized children
Mhm.
because they need to see expression, love,
Mm. Mm.
focus,
Mhm.
faces.
Mhm. Absolutely. Absolutely. Um, what could we do to support our children if you were sending your children to school, um, and they're spending all day with people who are wearing masks? What have you got any suggestions? Because I've got some ideas around that.
Well, people probably won't like my suggestions. My suggestion is rip your kids out of school and homeschool them till all this shit's over so that they
That's what.
won't have to go through years of psychiatrists and trauma. But if
Yes.
that's not possible, I would definitely sit with them, have the conversation. This is what we have to do for the moment. You
Mm.
know, I'm going to sit with your teacher, and we're going to make a plan that you can take it off every 10 minutes. Get an oil at least that they can have, that, you know, one, like if you wore, I love wearing um what is it called? I can't wear oils because they really react with me, but cacao butter I often rub over, and it smells like chocolate.
Mhm.
And so I would utilize something that my child associates with my love for them so that
Mhm.
they're able to have that um,
Yes.
in itself. But you know, the sad thing is a lot of the schools are standing children up the front and saying, you know, this, and they're segregating children. So that's what I mean. It's not just about the mask, it's about the
Mm.
background
Mm.
stuff going on. So I don't know how you can untrauma that.
Mm.
What do you got, Kay?
Well, well, I think, and I was pleased to see that Tori, the teachers at our school, don't have to wear them. That's fantastic. And Tori's little Jay doesn't wear his mask; he refuses. Now, how empowered is that? Only kid in his class who doesn't wear his mask. Now, that is, to me, an indication that he's been parented in a way of empowering him. And I say all hail to you, Tori, uh, talking about that with Jay, because I mean the crazy thing is that you know COVID's going around. You can get COVID no matter who you are, whether you're wearing a mask or not. Anyway, this isn't a debate about the mask, but there are other alternatives, and you don't have to go down that track of. I mean, I said something to my granddaughter tonight, and her mum said, you know, don't say that, you'll traumatize her. And it was around it actually wearing a mask is supposed to, kills your brain cells. So, and here's Zita's chiming in. We've got a few mums here with young kids and aware and awake mums who are aware of this. But I would be thinking, if you've made a decision to send your children to school and they've got to, and even whether they're going to school or not, people are walking around, I mean, in with masks. I mean, in Tasmania, there's a local market here. They're outside and all the stall holders are wearing masks. Half the people going to the market are wearing masks. So you really need to have that conversation with your children. And I hate to say it, but in a way, kind of normalize it. Like you said at the beginning, talk to your kids. This is what's happening at the moment because, and I would be framing, people are thinking if they don't wear masks, they might get sick. I would be giving my blend to that. But I think, and oh, I love it. Zita's saying, my son is almost 6 and I've shown him how to listen to himself and what feels right for him. And he got up and threw his mask in the bin that he was given at school. So isn't that fantastic? There's two parents here tonight who have empowered their children. So that is one thing. But really also having that conversation. So the children actually, I've found once children, you have a conversation with them, they then, you can kind of, I don't want to normalize it, but there's an acceptance that goes with it, which would be, if you want to negate those, I didn't throw you want to
I'm
bust there.
struggling with that.
Well, I know, but if you that your vision is something, you pull them out of school, but not everyone wants to do that, or no, but if you want to minimize the trauma for the
No,
children,
I don't
I
have a
would,
problem with what you're saying. Not a problem with what you're saying. My issue is normalizing it, normalizing masks. I
yes,
just,
no, I don't think
yeah,
we need to normalize it. No, not
yeah.
that, but just an acceptance of, well, okay, these teachers think they've got to wear masks, so okay, it's that thing of what is it? Live and let live. I don't agree with it, but that you do. So, like, I have a theory. The neighbours, what they do on their side of the fence, that's their business. What I do on my side of the fence, that's my business. So, I think we all could take a bit of a leaf of just letting people be who they are and do what they want to do. Now, Zita's talking about skipaustralia.org. They have a schools on notice of initiative. Highly recommend parents go to this website to get some empowered, get clarity, find community, and stand up and don't consent to your child wearing a mask. That fantastic. Good on you, Tori. Personal choice. So, if we are experiencing trauma, what can we do about it?
It's like we said, it's definitely something you need to deal with, but there are ways. Like, you don't, like, definitely get support, absolutely, no question. You need support because whatever that looks like for you. Some people like to see a psychologist, some people like to see a psychiatrist, some people like to ring like Lifeline, Beyond Blue. Like, there's places out there, absolutely. And some people like the, and what is it, anonymity, like anonymous, so that they don't have to, because a lot of people are ashamed, especially I can only speak for myself here. I cannot speak for anyone else, but I know when I was in domestic violence, I was ashamed. I thought, I'm a very well-educated woman. I'm a registered nurse. And I'm still stuck in this. And I was so ashamed. I don't know why. I think it was the stigma that went with it. But for me, I found journaling, having baths with candles, meditation, and building a plan. I built a plan, a safety plan to get me and my children out. So that was very therapeutic for me. Like, make a list, put some money away in a private bank account. I put myself, and I got my nursing career so that I could escape my marriage. And I did that when he was out bush. So he actually didn't know for a very long time that I was studying, like that kind of thing. But I also spoke to people because I think with trauma, you may think you can deal with it on your own, but you really kind of can't. You need that support. And your oils, I'm sure, would support Kay, like, definitely.
Yes. So we'll come to those sort of things, but I think the first thing is to stop and breathe. Like, even if we, if something happens on a daily level, you might go to town, for example, and you've left your wallet at home. Well, what are you going to do? You're going to stand there and scream and shout and kick and carry on? Or are you going to think, well, what could I do? Oh, there might be a friend around the road. Or just to take a step back and kind of go, well, what can I do? And yes, Tiffany, breath work. Take that breath. Just sit down and kind of don't get into the story. Look at it from a distance. Give yourself a bit of perspective on that so that you're not, and we talked about this last night actually in the wisdom group, I think, imagine that you're looking from afar. One of the powerful things that I went through was with my ex. we both went to some counseling and we did something called transactional analysis. Now, this is something you can do by yourself, and that is when you put yourself in the position of somebody else. Now, we went, and I had no idea we were going to be put through this process, but we were asked to do this process. So what happened was I had to put myself in my ex-husband's shoes or scenario or mindset or whatever. And when questions came my way, I kind of suddenly looked at it from somebody else's viewpoint, which was quite interesting because I then discovered what was happening for him, which might have been triggering, and me realizing what I was doing to trigger him. And it just gave me a whole different perspective, and some truth came out of him. I don't know what the experience was like for him because he never communicated much anyway. But that was very interesting. But definitely, I love your point that we can't always deal with it ourselves. So my situation, I tried to deal with things myself. I didn't want to tell people, same as you, Nettie, tried to kind of put a band-aid, or you'd pack up the kids and go down the beach and come back. And because I had children, I didn't want to throw them into the scenario. I didn't want to have a household where there was overt fighting and arguing. But it took me a long time to realize that I was actually in a situation with somebody who didn't have the ability or the skill, I don't know, whatever label you'd put on the behavior that I was living with. And it wasn't till some other things came out of the woodwork about my situation that the children disclosed. And then I was in a situation that, that escalated, and I had to deal with it. It was like we were just on this other call talking about divine nudges, or I wasn't listening to what I was supposed to be doing, and I was just paddling up a river with no paddles and going in the opposite direction, really. But it was when other people came in that gave me the empowerment, the understanding, and the realization that I was really in way over my depth. So seeking help is a really, really good thing to do. And I also found that most of my friends didn't want to get involved. They could see things, they might, and there were times, I guess, early in the piece that, a couple of friends might have said things, but they just said things. They just kind of, and they didn't necessarily do it at the right time, in the right way for me. So if we see other people in trauma, it's, I really do think we could support them, but it's not necessarily easy.
Absolutely. So, well, I had withdrawn so much from the world that I made sure I didn't have friends. So my work colleagues loved me, but I never, if I met them for coffee, it was at a coffee shop. I never brought them to my home because that was my safety net. I didn't want them to ask questions that might make me look into what was really going on, if that makes sense. And but when you seek some form of help, whatever that is for you, you learn new tools. I remember I learnt new tools all the time for staying safe while I was unsafe. Because a lot of people just, like I said, and I said this 1,000 times, and I'm talking about domestic violence here, people will come up and say, well, why don't you just leave? Or why doesn't she leave, or he, because it happens to men as well. But no one ever asks the question, why doesn't he stop doing that? Like, why doesn't he leave? Why doesn't he go? And, so you learn tools of the trade. Like Tiffany's put some really good stuff forward. And Tiffany's just said that she eventually learnt the only thing that she's in control of is her emotions and thoughts. And that's all we can control. And that's something valuable I learned. I couldn't control anything else except how I reacted to keep myself safe. Like, I knew that reacting with anger would give him the tick to say, oh, you're angry with me, I'm going to punch you in the face. So, you learn to not not great, because you shouldn't have to shut yourself down, but you learnt the safety mechanisms, you learnt the tools.
I can remember doing something when, you know, I was experiencing extreme situations, and I would just imagine that what was coming at me, and this is verbally, was just flowing over the top of me and wasn't actually inhibiting or touching me in any way. And that was great, because then I could just remain neutral, didn't take it on board, so that it was, just energetically just allowing it to flow over me. Wendy Merce, you're saying listen is the most important thing. That's fantastic. So you've got to listen to what other people are doing, but listen to within as well. And if you know that you're in a situation that's unwanted and it's not working for you, well, what are you going to do about it? And the power is within you. Just, it is, it is really important that we know that the longer we stay in a scenario that we don't want to be in, the more compounded it is. And I do remember some people staying with me, and they could see that our family was in a distress, and they talked about, for every day that you're in that situation, their scenario was it's going to take that long to unravel that, and it was a concern about the children. But I was still in a fair amount of denial at that stage, and denial is a real powerful thing. The River Nile, who's been down the Nile, and it's your and I think denial is in part to protect us, because
it's a safety
safety net, and it's all too much for us. But at some point we've got to kind of go shake that off and find out, what you can start doing. So we've talked about breath, we've talked about spirituality, but these days, if I had these, well, actually I did have some, I was working with Orasoma back in those days. So I was looking for some tools to support me. I became a Reiki channel. I, started going when I could, went to self-help and different things. So I slowly started putting myself back together again. But I would be, obviously, using these beautiful oils to help, because they've discovered that when you breathe an oil in, it goes straight to the limbic system of your brain. So it bypasses the thinking part, or the what do you call it? The analytic part of your brain, so that these oils are really powerful, because they help to release the memories. And when you release the memories, then and let them go, then there's a space for something new to come in. So new beginnings, new ways to handle things.
Yeah, and the brain works in such mysterious ways. I mean, they know nothing about the brain, really. Realistically, they know how to go in and remove a cancer, but they are still working out how the brain works. And every time I used to work in oncology, we use essential oils in palliative care, but we don't use them in none of the oncologies I ever worked in. Now, there's a reason for that, because exactly what you just said, like you can open an oil like an orange. I know everyone talks about orange, and it's a feel good. So people would unknowingly, do the right thing and bring in people's favorite foods into the oncology ward and oils and things. But because of the trauma that you would go through with the chemo, with anyone who knows what I'm talking about will understand, the brain would then remember. So when they got out of hospital, they were cleared, they were well, they were happy, and then they would smell that oil or that favorite food, and it will take them straight back to when they were having chemo. So we always encouraged, don't bring food in that you want to stop eating. So if you're a chocoholic, you never want to eat chocolate again, eat it while you're having chemo type thing, So because the brain has that memory pattern, It does. It has the memory pattern. So it can be 40 years past that chemo, but you have that one smell and it will take you back as if you're still sitting in that chair or bed, getting that chemo. So we do get triggered, and it doesn't matter how much work. That's why people like boys from the army, and women, sorry, I say boys because I was married to an army guy, like PTSD. It's a real thing. They can have all the work they want, and they can have a jet go over and it can trigger them from Afghanistan. Boom, just out of the blue. And other times they'll be fine with it.
Yes, sometimes we don't know where the connect. When that trigger, when you're living with somebody who can go off like a spark, it can just come out of the blue. You've got no idea. It catches you unaware, and you're on the back foot. And for me, I had lots of little children around, and I tended to try and cover it all up, which as the children got older, the less and less you could do that, until in the end they spoke up about some things that they'd been through. And then I felt really bad, because I kind of went, oh, look, there's all these warning signs and blah, 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 blah. But, you've got to come to a point that, you just did what you could when you could, as you could. And you can't keep beating yourself up around the bush for
and look,
done.
Sorry, Kay. I was just going to say, like I'm very big on forgiveness, but not forgiveness of others. I'm not interested in that, but forgiveness of self. And that's a journey I had to go down. I had to learn to forgive myself, because the guilt and you will understand this, Kay, the guilt of being in that relationship and things happening that, and I had to go down the self-forgiveness path, because I was in survival mode myself. So I was really of no use to anybody else. I was going through the motions, like get out of bed, have a shower, cook the kids breakfast, take them to school. But I had to learn, and that was one of my biggest points, my biggest turning points in my healing, was being able to forgive myself for, because we're not born knowing how to deal with all this stuff. We reach out to people for help and the help's not there. So you keep going into survival mode. And I don't know why they call it survival mode, because you're really not surviving, but it is what it is. But my biggest turning point was my self-forgiveness.
Okay, that's really good point. So we actually have an oil called forgiveness, which we rub on our heart. So, we're often our own worst critics, or, we beat ourselves up, or give ourselves a hard time. We're our own worst enemies in that sense. But I think all of us on this feed here tonight, I can see, Wendy, thanks for sharing some of the trauma that you're going through. And it's just so beautiful to see that heart is shining through with what you're experiencing and what you're going through. And she's saying she loves to use oils. Kylie Gregory talking about the 5 senses trigger you often, but I'm learning to deal with them: hearing, sight, touch, smell, and taste. I wish you were on this live so you could explain to everyone a little bit more about what that means to you and what you do.
I can jump out if Kylie wants to come in.
I don't want to jump you out. It's okay, but I
don't mind. I'm really enjoying this. I really am enjoying this, and it really helps when if you can have a conversation and just help one person to go, oh my God, I felt the same way, or oh my God, I'm not going crazy. Like these ladies have been through this themselves, then that's why we have these discussions. This isn't because we want to bring the energy level down, because this is bringing the energy level up, because we've got people talking, and that, how beautiful is that, sharing their stories. I don't think you can get any better than that.
No.
So if Kylie wants to come on, I'm more than happy to go on the page and watch while Kylie talks.
Send Kylie an invite, and you don't have to go anywhere anyway if she wants to.
Huh.
But anyway, look, let's note it, Kylie, if you want to hop on. But I just think, we're in this together, and the more conversations we have and the more we lift each other up is really what it's all about. And I know for you, Netty, and for myself, that is what we're on about when we jump onto these lives, because we've come through our experiences and we've got ourselves into a cozy, more established situation. And, for me, I know that I'm doing what I can to put myself out there and stand up and go, hey, I've come from somewhere dark that I didn't enjoy, and put, me at risk in lots of areas. But, well, let's not be stuck there. That we're moved on. We're going, well, how can we grow and evolve from this, and where to next? And for me, I guess it was that point of going, well, what can I do for other people? And maybe that's also definitely, to do with my stage of life, because my kids are grown up and left home, and yes, they still need me, and I love them, and we still have lots of interaction. But as you get older, you realize it's time to give back into the community, or it might be something when you're younger. Now, Tiffany, I came from darkness and started to shine. I love that. That is
Like
so
the
beautiful.
lotus flower.
And they say that, when you oh, I lost that. Oh, yeah, those lessons that you learn are what, it's given you this. For me, it's empowered me to go, I want to do something about it. I want to turn it around. And I've been out of my situation for many years now, but it didn't make me stay. I didn't want to be bitter, and I didn't want to be resentful. I didn't want to be bitter over my ex-husband leaving. I didn't want to be bitter over what I walked into. And then I discovered that because I hadn't done the healing I needed to do before I got myself involved in another relationship, I was a total mess. And I actually got myself involved with someone who wouldn't leave. I said, like, within he just came to my house and he wouldn't leave. And I'd say, just, can you go? I don't want you here. And I should have got the cops then.
Yeah.
In the end, I had, 8 years later, and it took the cops to come and support me to get rid of him. And even there was another part of that story as well. But don't know where I'm going. I've lost that. She's not
okay,
brave.
Kylie. That's all right. There's no pressure, my darling. No pressure.
Yes.
Look,
Yeah,
for
beautiful.
me,
No,
Kay,
it's not work at all. It's honest. They're good on you, Kylie. That's fine.
My biggest thing for me is working with all of my traumas, like working through them. And I learned to let go, and I've said this before, so those of you who have heard me will have heard me say it, but I remember resenting my mum for so many years because, I wasn't wanted as part of our family. I was, it was so bad I ran away from home when I was 14, nearly 15, and lived in the snow. But going back through all the traumas, something that came out of everything for me that I love the most is that I got to know me to the point that if I was at work one day and a male nurse said to me, oh God, I just, whenever you're around, Jeanette, the whole ward lights up, the patients love you. I would love to take you out for a coffee. And I listened to my body and there were alarm bells. And I said, look, I love that you asked me, but I like to keep my professional life very separate from my work life. So I respectfully declined. He's like, yep, no worries, But it turned out that he was asking everybody and started to get creepy with it, started following the girls out to their car. Do you know what I mean? But I was so in tune with Jeanette that I picked up on that like an antenna, and I was able to politely decline, and I felt very comfortable doing that. Whereas the people pleaser Jeanette would have, okay, even though everything told me not to go, but I wouldn't want to, offend him or Whereas I learnt that it's okay to stand in your
Mm.
truth and say, no, thank you. You don't have to give a reason. I did. I just said, which true.
Yes. Yep.
But because I had to go and work with this guy after that, so I didn't
Mm,
really want the angst. But
mm, mm,
I know myself so well now. Like if I get up and something starts going on, I know that I can stop and think, does this belong to me, or is this the collective energy? And
mhm,
I'm able to fix it. And I love that. So, every challenge we have, please pray that nobody has to go through trauma to learn this, but you do start learning self-help skills. You are
mm.
definitely a self-help tool, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. Now, great points, Zita, and Deb's found her inner strength after the darkness, and hello to Tori. So, and Tori's talking about what's some of what she's been through. So, you know, all of us have had trauma to varying degrees with different effects, but it's what we do with those lessons, and how we move forward and how we empower ourselves. I remember I lived 10 k's from the highway, and sometimes I would be leaving here to go teaching, providing for my children, trying to keep the food on the table and the clothes on their backs and whatever else. So I would leave here under, grief and trauma and whatever was going on in my head and the story. And I would give myself 10 Ks to the highway. You would know the highway, Netty in Tasmania, from the Boat Harbour turn off onto the highway. So I would drive and I'd be crying and crying and crying and just going, all right, I've just got to let it all go. And then we have an oil called Valor, which is for courage and for peace and for giving you the strength. And I would just roll that on my arms. So I gave myself the grace to say, yes, I can do that grieving. But then there was also a point where I I I discovered that I had to turn it off. I had to say, right, I've done the grieving and now I'm going to flick the switch and I'm going to move into a new zone. And what I would do was put oils on myself and switch gears, go into a whole new energetic state, and then you could get through the day and breeze. And that's one of the things that I found really helpful. And we have, I don't, no, I've still got them packed up from the weekend. But we have an oil called Sara, Sara. And that's an acronym. Is it an acronym? Is that what they call it? For sexual and ritual abuse. Now,
Oh,
there's oils in there that are very empowering and help you to deal with that trauma. And Tiffany's saying she loves, there you are, she loves Vala and Sarah. So they are so empowering. There's also another one called Trauma Life.
yeah.
And
No.
Trauma Life is really a good oil for settling yourself, in a state where trauma is not going to, compound what's going on. So Zita's talking about Sarah is her favourite, and she also loves Valor. So definitely Valor, just that the Valor takes you out of the flight and fight, basically, and just brings you down into a state of just, equilibrium, or a state where you're feeling calm enough to deal with things, so that you can move forward.
Yeah.
Kylie, that Sarah sounds interesting. Yeah, it's a great oil. Actually,
Yeah.
I know someone who put a drop of that in her tummy button. Now, your tummy button's a really powerful place to apply an oil, and I would err on the side of caution. If you're not used to using these oils, put a little bit of carrier oil in it. But you can drop the oils into your tummy button, which will, and there's all your nerve endings go into your tummy button, and that is a really powerful place. You think that's where your umbilical cord is, where you've been attached to your mother. And if you've got any healing to do on that, or any disconnecting, or any empowerment, the tummy button's a really good place for making quite a powerful shift.
This isn't so much to do with trauma, but this is something that I've used for many, many years, and I've taught a lot of my patients and family friends to do. Anyone who's ever been to hospital, you'll know that us nurses will come bounding into the room and will say, "Hi, Kay. You know, how are you going today? Are you in any pain?" And Kay says, "Yes, I'm in pain." And I'll say, "Okay, Kay, on a scale of 0 to 10, 0 being no pain, 10 being the most excruciating pain you've ever been in, what would you be at right now?" So then Kay would give me her, "Oh, I'm 8 out of 10. So I would automatically know that a Panadol is not going to help her. I need to get some big gun to come in and deal with that 8 out of 10 pain, because that's pretty severe, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
So something that I did, and Kat, you might remember this, Kat needs a oil for calm. She's not dealing tonight, so it might be the children not sleeping. But what I used to do, if I was having a bad day, like say something had happened, what I used to do is I used to give myself the 0 out of 10, not for pain, but I would say, "Okay, Jeanette, you just got abused in the supermarket. How was that for you? 0 to 10? Well, it didn't really, like, it scared me, but I wasn't, I wasn't terrified. So I'd probably give that a 5 out of 10. So I used to rate how long I would feel sorry for myself and give myself permission to feel sorry for myself based on my number. So if I had a 8 out of 10, like if like one time my ex-husband sent me a text and said, "Oh, I really love those purple panties on the line that you've got today," and that just totally petrified me because he was obviously still stalking us, etc. And that was like a 9 to 10 out of 10 for me, So I allowed myself, and I give myself a timeline. I'd say, "Okay, 10 out of 10, I'm going to wallow in self-pity for 48 hours, and then I'll get up and action something." So for 48 hours, I would stay in my pajamas, I would eat chocolate, and I would watch Netflix, for example. But once that timer, and I'd put a timer on, once that timer was off, I had to move forward and action something for myself. So if I just stubbed my toe, "Oh, boo-hoo, 1 out of 10 pain," I might allow myself, 10 minutes to go, "Oh, I hate life's so hard, blah, blah, blah." 10 minutes, done, okay, get over it, move on. Now, don't put grief in that. Never, ever, ever. Grief is a whole different thing. I'm talking about everyday stuff. So if you have a big argument with your partner when he goes off to work, you're allowed to sit there and say, "Well, that's a 4 out of 10 annoyance for me. So for, like for 2 hours, I'm going to sit here and I'm not doing the dishes. I'm not doing anything. I'm going to sit on Facebook for 2 hours." But once the timer goes off, you've got to get back to real life. That's something that really works for me. And you made me remember that. And I used to teach my nursing students the same thing, because I'd say, you're going to have hard days as a nursing student. You are. So make yourself a little time frame. You're allowed to feel sorry for yourself for that long, and then get on with it.
Tiff's got some good ideas here. We use a scale of 1 to 10 for needs. Like I need 3 to do that, but 7 need that self-care thing. So putting things on a scale, I love that idea. I like 5 for 5 is my rule. If it won't matter in 5 years, I have 5 minutes to stress about it. That's fantastic. So
I love it. And you said she thinks she knows someone who needs a timer. So obviously someone's taking it too long.
So, but that's interesting. These strategies are putting us into our logical brain. So we're going out of the feeling brain into the thinking brain in order to get ourselves out of things. And even you talked about before about having a strategy. So if you get a plan going, all right, well, what can I actually do? What's in my power in this moment? What can I do in my power? And if it's not in my power and I want it in my power, how do I get it to be? How do I get it to be in my power to deal with things? Kylie Gregory, I use frowns, sad face to happy faces with my family, kids in
Yeah.
life when I need to help them.
Yes. And we
So,
use
um,
those in pediatrics.
yeah, okay. So one of the things I used to do with my children, if 4 kids, all girls, "Rah," screamaholics, and who did this and who did that, and it would just go on and on and on. And when I was in overwhelm, I would get out a big a pad, give everybody a piece of paper, coloured pencils in the middle of the table, and I would say, right, what I want you to do is write down 3 things that or one thing or whatever, write down some things that you're not happy about. Now that would get them once again out of that emotional brain into their logical brain, and then we would start talking about it. But I would also get them to write down, okay, if it's the fact that one pinches the other one's clothes, well, how do you feel about it? And start journaling in that way. And within, not like, it worked every time, and we'd all be in the end laughing, and we'd be all just sitting around doing really fun creative artwork and doodles, and it got us out of the verbal throw it at you mode, and it gave everybody some action to deal with whatever was going on, and it was very empowering. Something that I think is really important is to start being grateful. This is something we can all do. This is a gratitude blend. Okay. So if you are in that mode where everything is overwhelming and it's all too much for you, you've got to start looking at what is working for you in your life, and then build on that, and start affirming all the good things. And the more you affirm, you become like a magnet. And they've done studies on how our vibrations are raised. If we feel gratitude, then we might step into the feeling of joy. Now this is a blend that's just absolutely beautiful. It's like a perfume, and it's got rose in it, so it makes you feel really yummy. Now, one of our leaders in Young Living, she has a story about her daughter who was, and some of you might have heard this, but anyway, she was in the US. They live in the US, and her daughter had some, mental health situations, and she had gone into shutdown mode, and she wouldn't talk, and her mum would go and her mum had tried all sorts of things, and she got onto some oils. I think she bought a bottle of blend or something. Actually, it used to be whatever. She bought some oils, but joy oil is what her daughter loved, and it helped her to unlock whatever was stuck in there, and her daughter was able to start talking about things, and that was a major breakthrough. So her daughter got to the stage, put herself back together again, and now just loves the oils and has a thriving business, because she had lived through this experience, and she knew this one oil had made such an impact on her life that it just turned everything around. And I like this tip, talking about responding, not reacting. Very important. So when we become detached from, imagine that you're looking down on it. Imagine that you're not in that scenario. Put yourself as the fly on the wall and look at it from a distance.
Look, and that's why I'm so huge on, and people will hear me talk about it all the time, inner work, shadow work, whatever tag you want to put on it. Because when you do your inner work, life doesn't affect you like it did before you do the inner work. You are able to respond, not react. And a really powerful thing to do, is sometimes if you're going to see one of your siblings and you know that they're going to have something to say about blah, 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 doing your inner work before you leave the house, you can actually write the scenario down and how you will respond, because usually you know your sibling well, you know that they're going to say, black is red and da 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 da. You can already pre-plan that, pre-program your brain so that when that conversation comes up, you can calmly sit and say, yep, okay, I thought about that, and actually, as much as you believe in that, like me and you before, Kay, when I said, oh, I don't think we should be normalizing that, you said, and that's okay, you're entitled to your opinion, but for people who da 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 da, and there was no conflict. There was, yeah, okay, I agree with that. Yep, I agree with that, and we move on, and that's being an adult, and and. But that's Kay and I. We've done the inner work. I don't need to argue with Kay. She's my beautiful friend. We're allowed to have different, not even different. We're allowed to have, different wavelengths on things that we, because we're not always going to be the same. Our lives would be so boring. But that's why I'm so passionate about people doing their inner work, is getting to know you. What sets you off? If you know your sister's going to set you off, don't go and visit your sister, or do it in a place, meet at a cafe where she can't start on you, so you can have a pleasant, and then you can go. You can leave at any time. Whereas if you go to her house, she's kind of stuck, or so it's about learning you, really learning you.
Putting yourself in an empowered position. I love that.
Yeah.
My sister and I disagree on some things currently at the moment, and we've just gone, well, we agree to disagree. And that is very empowering. If you can just agree to disagree, it just means that there's no problem. And I think I feel very fortunate that we can both stand in that space of agreeing to disagree, because our love for each other and our family values go way over and above what other people are trying to do, in this world to us. So, and she was always the one that followed the rules, and I, surprise, surprise, was the one that questioned the rules. Let's put it that way.
But when you break it right down, like for example, you and your sibling, and you're able to agree to disagree, that shows me the balance, because when you can't agree to disagree, it's because one person needs to be right. Oh, I can see your point of view, but I need you to listen to me. I need you to come over to where I am. And when you can agree to disagree, that shows the empowerment from both parties. Yeah, you know what, Kay, I think you're a dickhead. I don't agree with what you say, but you know what? You do you, I'll do me. It doesn't mean we have to agree. I would never call you that, by the way, Kay. But and that's part of being, doing that's the inner journey work. And, I learned a valuable tool because I lived in domestic violence, because I never knew what would trigger. So I learned, pick your battles, because he would do things, like, let's just say, leave the oven on type thing, and I think I can make a scene about the oven, or I can just wait till he's gone and then I'll turn the oven off. So pick your battle.
Strategically working smarter, not harder, is it?
Yeah, and you find that you're so much more at peace, because you're not like, oh, he knows to turn the oven off. Okay, he left the oven on. Obviously a deliberate ploy. I'm not going to bite. I'll turn the oven off. And because there was no reaction, he would stop leaving the oven on, because it didn't trigger me. It didn't set me off. So I didn't play into the hands of having to be right.
And that's what you can do with your children as well. Pick your battles. Is this the right timing to deal with it? Am I feeling okay? Am I tired? Oh, hang on, they're probably tired. They haven't eaten. Or maybe there's something underlying, if particularly teenagers, if they're reacting, there might be other things going on that they haven't spoken to you about. And you could just sometimes, just noticing and just even saying something, oh, you just don't seem as happy as you've been lately, or just give it this sort of little gentle twist of a bit of something you've observed. And don't actually feel that you have to get them to speak to it right then, but they know that you're noticing, and just reassuring them and telling them, and life isn't a bowl of rose petals all the time, and knowing and telling them. Tiff's saying, if I'm overwhelmed with the kids, I count to 3 before responding. That's great. So what can we do with our children or ourselves? It's that take a deep breath. And this last week I've been on a what is it, like a mastermind thing. It's been a course that we've been on, and this lady was talking about things, and right throughout the course she'd say, I want everyone just to take a deep breath. And I thought, wow, that's fantastic, because we often find ourselves in a state where when you tune into what's happening to your body, you're actually holding yourself in a state of tension. And then that's affecting everything in our body, all our organs and our health and well-being. Hey, we have been chatting here. I don't know where we're going next with this, but I think it's fantastic that we've opened the door for some conversations.
Yeah.
So where are we going to next, Netty?
I don't know. Where do you want to go next? I have to go to not too long because I haven't even had dinner yet. I've been creating all day. I'm exhausted.
Yeah, oh, that's where I want to go next. There's some things behind Netty, and she goes, oh, they're the things that I've got happening. So tell us when your launch is happening, and you've got some things behind those little lovely scarves.
I have those shelves behind me are chock-a-block full of Earth Magic. So we are hoping to launch on Tuesday, the 22nd of the 2nd, 2022.
Oh,
so
I love it.
Fingers crossed, all will be well. You come on with us, Tiff.
2, 4, 6, 8, 12. It's a spiritual day.
Yes, and my birthday's on Sunday, so I did think about doing it on my birthday. Netty, the sheet is moving.
Yeah. Those things want to come out from behind there.
I'm so excited about Earth Magic. It's been a dream of my eldest daughter and I since Sarah was a little girl to go in business together. And when we both decided we'd had enough of our nursing career, we both just picked up our nursing bags and walked out and never returned. So it's been a journey. I'll tell you that. It's been a journey. But it's magical in itself, because when we're creating, we've got a space for our creating, and we put music on, and it's like we become one but two people. Like Sarah will start to do something and I'll have already started the other side of that, and she will start doing that and I've got that, and we turn around and it's all done, and we just look at each other and like we're just in sync with each other so much. So yeah, nice. I'm very excited.
We're all excited, so we'll have to know when you're launching your new things. So I think tonight we're not going to be doing readings. We're going to send Netty off to have some tea. And thanks for contributing. Thanks for being here. Netty reached out and said, we haven't done anything together for a while. So that's always really nice. And what have I been doing? Lots of things, I'm kind of doing a few things on the back end of what's happening. I'm rebranding, I'm refining my message, and just joined. I've been on a free workshop for the last 7 days, I think, and have stepped into something that's going to take me further down the role of leadership and giving us the ability to support other people, because one of my dreams is, and it's coming to fruition with Tiffany's stepping up and coming onto the lives and sharing her gems and things. And that's what I want to do with other people. I want you to get onto your path of purpose with passion and have vitality. And I know Zita and I have been talking about what we can do together as well. So I'm creating the energetic space for our community to just grow and expand. And because I want to see more of you stepping into your personal power and having success, following your passion, tuning into your purpose. So I also have another Vision Quest happening on the 3rd of March, and that'll be a time where those who want to come in and sit down and look at their future and what are you laying, what foundations are you laying out so that you can feel the excitement of life and start becoming really the master of your destiny. What's you grinning about there? Nice card.
So it's exactly what you're saying. It's you're planting the seeds for the growth of
Mm.
everything that you are going forward in your leadership. And I kept getting told, turn the card, turn the card. So I did. And here it is, like it's and like you're going to help people plant the seeds for their revolution, for their growth. That is so freaking powerful. And once we can travel and everything freely without fear of getting trapped somewhere for months and never seeing family, I think you and I should do something in Tassie, Kay. I think we should do some women's circles or some leadership camps or some. I really think that would be amazing, and we can drag Tiff and Zita in. And yeah, I just think that there's so much that is going to come from that, and I'm so happy for you, Kay.
Thank you. Well, time will tell. We are all going to Tassie. Yay, Tori. I've got plenty of room in the backyard. I've got tents. I've got lots of work to
I'm
be
just
done.
laughing because Kylie said that she'd been seeing the thing behind me move all night, and I was just hoping it would open right up. And so
Not the
people
right
are wanting a sneak peek, and I'm not giving a sneak peek because I'm so freaking excited about what is behind there. To give it a sneak peek would spoil everything because we've been working very hard.
Yeah. Tasmania's been coming up a lot lately. Fantastic. So yes, well, let's I did hear today the masks around the schools might only be here for a few weeks in Tassie, so that'll be another thing coming down off the old block. So we will see what will be happening there. Sending 4 pictures there next week.
Oh, I want to see your work, Tiff. Send me some photos of your work. I haven't seen it. I just want to see it. I'm so
She's
excited.
got a page. What's the name of your page, Tiffy?
Oh,
and
yes, you did say.
Tiffy's been doing videos of her artwork.
See, I haven't even been on because I've been creating. But you did. I think you put it up last night, Tiffy, and I forgot to write it down.
And Katrina, that's my dream, spiritual retreats on a property in Tassie. Nice. So the even the retreat people that I've been with, there was only about 8 or 9 of us the other weekend, but with the first one that I got together with this group of people was a singing workshop, so using your voice and toning. And then some of us, and that was very beautiful because it was very transformative. And then last weekend it was a similar group of people with a few other people extras coming on board, and we did yin yoga, we did laughter yoga, we did color therapy drawings, meditations, drumming. Oh, I don't know what else. I did a vision quest, and we all just loved it. It was fantastic, and that was about us who we the people who want to give to other people, the healers, so to speak. I'm reluctant to call myself a healer, but the energy workers, so that we were filling our own cup. And that's so important for any of us to be empowered, is to fill our own cup. And we were getting to know each other. We're getting to create a good, solid feeling about things, about the community. And then we will be offering retreats where other people will be coming. So we've got actually there's a really nice, I've kind of in a whole new zone with people in since well, in the last couple of years, a whole new zone of people who are walking towards this community type scenario where we can support ourselves.
We're going back to tribes. And, so many people say that there's so much negative about what's happening in the world. I digress. I think it's so beautiful. I think we are moving past hate. We are moving past greed. We are moving past judgment. We are creating tribes. We are coming into our own power. We are empowering others. I love it. I don't like the way it's happened. Not at all. I mean, you'd be a fool to sit here and say, oh, yeah, that's been great. But what's coming out of it is absolutely magical. Absolutely.
Community property retreats. Orosoma. Oh, you do Orosoma, Katrina. That's where I came from with my colour. My love for colour. I became an Orosoma reader. Fantastic.
I'm going to go because Lauren said my dinner's ready.
Oh, okay. I'm going to go, everyone. We could rave on forever. Thanks for the great connection. Look for the flaws, you'll find them. Look for the beauty, you'll find it. Too many looking for the wrong thing. Absolutely perfect. On that note, I'm going to love you all and leave you from my heart to your heart. Move on with power, passion, and vitality. And what's your message, Jeanette?
Never, ever, ever let anyone dull your sparkle. Shine bright. Shine so bright that you blind people. I love you all.
Bye.